Fractured Online is a sandbox MMORPG that just had its full release this week. It's a really unique MMO where you learn the game's spells and abilities by fighting and defeating the monsters that use them. The game also has a really in-depth construction and crafting system where you can build up your own house brick by brick or work together with friends or a guild and build up a real town that other players can use. I played the game when it had its early access release and it was a ton of fun. It had a lot of potential, but it was lacking in some areas. So here's another look at the game, an updated review in 2024 now that it's had its full release, all of its new content is out, and we'll talk about, the good, the bad, and whether it's worth jumping back in or jumping in for the first time. So let's talk about the start of the game, the character creator, and the new player experience. They revamped the tutorial for this full release, so let's just talk about it all. You start by making your character, and you choose between 3 races. And each of them have special abilities and stat bonuses. So some are very intelligent, some are strong, some are kind of balanced, that kind of thing. There's the animal-like faction with races such as deer and cats, that kind of thing. There's the demon race, which is newly added from the last time I played. And they have like the sleek vampire demons that have got an intelligence bonus. And they've got these big, strong, like infernals that have got like a lot of strength. Or you can go in the middle and be the human race, and they have a balance of all stats. So once you make your character, you get the option of a starting background. And this is similar to kind of like a D&D intro. But these don't define your character. They are just a way to give you a selection of starting spells. You can learn every single spell and ability in the game regardless of what you pick here. So this is just what you want to play at the start. So I picked the new vampire demon race that had a bonus to intelligence, and I went with a battle mage kind of background that gave me strength and int. And I jumped into the game. It starts you out in a tutorial that teaches you how to play the game. It shows you how to defeat enemies, shows you how you gain knowledge the more of that enemy you defeat. And then when you've hit certain milestones of defeating them, say you defeat like 5 or 10, you can start to learn their abilities. So as you're fighting like the bears, you would learn like their slashers and their swipes, that kind of thing. And then as you're defeating like the bandit kind of people, you start to learn their abilities. There's archers and there's swordsmen, that kind of thing. The tutorial teaches you that as you collect these new abilities, you can hold a certain amount that can go on your hotbar. And that's kind of like how you make your builds. You go and sit at a campfire, you assign certain spells, and then you put them around on your hotbar, and that's like your build. So yeah, once you've done the intro, there's a bunch of optional quests you can do in the tutorial if you want, which involve going around and getting more knowledge on like the skeletons, the bandits, things like that. There's a little crafting tutorial that teaches you how to make your own weapons and armor, and you don't have to do any of that if you don't want. You can just leave once you've done the basics. Once you're done, you go over to this big portal and you have to choose a starting planet. You can pick, I might butcher the names here, Syndesia or Arboreus, and here is where the big changes in Fractured Online come in. So one is a PvP focused planet where the cities are taken through conquest and there's strongholds and you fight over them with guild v guild kind of combat. And the other is a PvE complete safe zone. There's no PvP, there's no threat of PvP, there's no way to interact with it. It is just a PvE zone. So there is a complete option now to play this without threat of other players, which is interesting. And this choice isn't final, as you can go through a Stargate and travel to the other worlds if you want to. Okay, now let's talk about the skills, the builds, and the combat, because this is, in my opinion, the golden star of the game. This is the absolute best thing about this game. It's why everyone was looking forward to it so much. It's why it had so much hype on its initial release, and it's why I've gone back to it now. It's the thing that drew me in for the first time and keeps bringing me back. It's that you can learn every single ability from the monsters in the game. If you have an archer that's shooting fire arrows at you, keep fighting it. And you will learn how to shoot fire arrows, rapid fire, pin arrows, all that stuff. Anything he can learn, like 4 or 5 spells, you'll be able to learn. Say there's a big fire dragon at the end of the game. Go fight it, and you'll learn some of its fire abilities. Get 100% knowledge on it, and you'll learn how to do dragon fire breath. This is like something that you don't see in many games. If you've ever played like a blue mage in Final Fantasy, it's kind of like that, where you have this bestiary of monsters and creatures and opponents, and as you gain your knowledge, you like fill up the bar and you learn more and more abilities, and then you can make any build in the game with those abilities. This makes the game just really unique. It's a cool experience going around the world, learning all of the abilities. Like you start out and you're fighting like goblins and learning their goblin powers. And like the big chase item there, once you get to 100%, is like being able to summon these goblin totems, which are like summons. You can fight like skeletons and learn how to summon skeletons, things like that. There's like bandits and all these different creatures, and then eventually, like as you start progressing, there's these dragons and there's these big frost giants that like live on these snowy mountains. There's like fire elementals that live upon a volcano, and you get to use the abilities you've learned to progress and learn your new abilities. On top of this, there is no classes. If you can imagine it, you can make it pretty much. And with like the pull away from PvP, there's not really the focus of I need a meta build. I need to be the meta to work around all the people that are going to attack me. You can just make whatever you want. Okay, so now let's just quickly talk back about the worlds and the PvP rules, because this is something that's changed a lot based on feedback for the full release. So I said before, one planet is full PvE. There is no PvP. You are free to go on, farm, and have fun. If you're a solo player, that is amazing because you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about the meta. You don't have to worry about gankers. You don't have to worry about, oh, I've got too many items on me. Just go have fun. There's kind of no risk. There's just the mobs that can knock you down and you get back up. So that's cool. Then there's a PvP world, and that is confusing because it's not full loot PvP anymore. There's been a change. So all player-owned cities are taken through combat and through conquest, and guilds work together to take over territory and structures, which is cool. All the big events on the map are PvP. However, the open world is not. The open world is still pretty much safe. You can flag as aggressive or you can flag as peaceful. Peaceful, there's no PvP on the PvP world. So that's where the confusion comes in. The PvP world, you can choose not to PvP, and you can go to PvP somebody and they can have their kind of PvP mode turned off, which is a strange concept. So let's talk about why. Why would you PvP then? What's the incentive to PvP? And this is where the big change comes in. So there's like a 25% chance, I believe, to get more resources from having this aggressive mode on. But the big thing that's going to, where they've pushed the PvP to, is these things called divine trials. So there's now this thing where you can earn favor with a god. There's like Nalena, who's like the goddess of the wilds, and gaining favor with them lets you teleport, I believe, once a day, and gaining more lets you teleport multiple times a day. There's like Galvanos, the god of knowledge, that lets you summon monsters. Then there's Iridia, the goddess of fortune, which gives you bonus luck if you gain favor with her. So this system is really cool. It's like reputations from like World of Warcraft. It's like gaining favor with a certain god and unlocking abilities for doing it. And to do that, you have to go to these big timed events all over the map. Okay, I'm gonna get into where PvP comes in. So these big events, you go there. You farm the mobs, and some of the mobs will be corrupted, which drop special things. And as you're there, you start to gain favor. However, a couple of these zones on the map each time will be in lawless zones on the PvP world. And if you go to a lawless zone, you have to turn your aggressive stance on. So yeah, these big events where you can farm the reputation with the gods, you have to turn your aggressive stance on, and PvP is going to happen. So I think that's really cool. Whereas if you're playing on the PvE zone where there's no combat, you can still go to these zones, but the rewards are a bit less than on the PvP zone, but have like a lower risk, slightly lower reward for being there. So yeah, I think this is a good balance. The next big part of the game for me has always been the building and the crafting. Everything is super, super realistic, but there is now a bit more quality of life. You can fully claim a piece of land, lay down a house, and build it up brick by brick. You can build a cart, tie it to the back of your horse, ride out, gather ore, stone, and logs, and then bring it all back to your house and build it one by one. You can build production buildings, maybe place like a thing to tend your logs into lumber and craft bows, or a forge and coal pits to craft like metal armor. And if you have a hunger for the big stuff, you can take a town with your friends or your guild and build that up. People become trusted citizens of your town and build production buildings. You can have people work on your farms, work for different things, and like each one can help grow the town. You can even build up the walls for sieges. And then you can live out of these towns doing all of your crafting and turn some small rundown place of the map into a thriving city that people come and trade in. I built a little house next to one of the biggest cities on the map and used that to trade and craft. And it was really fun over the time I've been playing, watching that town get bigger and grow and things get built there. So yeah, that's kind of everything I've been playing. And is that it? Are we done? Is that the end of the journey for Fractured? Absolutely not. So like most indie MMOs out there is a mountain of ambitious content planned. They have a roadmap going all the way up to like 2025 and beyond. And we just had the release of like summoning abilities, trials, and the new PvP rules, which were delivered in really good quality. The next big plan is for seasons, which I don't really know anything about right now, city development, and new races coming. Going forward, it looks like more monsters, asteroids, dungeons, potentially the new demon world, Tartarus, to go along with the new demon race that we have. I think this game has a really good structure, and I said it last time, I'll say it again, it has amazing potential. I'm hopeful for the future, and it looks like they've got a lot on their hands, and if they can deliver it as well as they've delivered this sprint, I'm hopeful for it. I'm hopeful for the future. One thing we can say is, if you haven't played in a while, they took on a lot of feedback from their early access release, and they've changed a lot. They have really gone to town on fixing things that people said were the pain points of the game. So I'm hopeful it'll continue to grow. So overall, should you play Fractured Online in 2024? I'd say this is an indie game with an indie price. It's like £10 on Steam right now at the time of recording this, and it is absolutely packed full of content. Discovering this game for the first time, learning all the abilities, either solo or with a few friends, making builds, building your house, or joining a guild and building a city is an incredible experience that I would 100% recommend to anyone that likes the look of this sort of game. The game had a lot of issues in its early access, and that left it with, I believe, mixed reviews, but hats off to the developers. They went away, knuckled down, hotfix after hotfix, patch after patch, content after content, and it's now sitting at mostly positive reviews, which is great. So yeah, It's a huge improvement on where it was. Expect bugs, expect a bit of like the indie game jank. This isn't World of Warcraft with a £1 million dev team, but what you can get out of this game for such a small price is incredible, and the quality of what we do have is really good. I like to keep this balance though, and not just sing all the praises. I do want to talk about problems or issues from my time playing to make you as aware as you need to be. And like all sandbox games, there's a few. This game relies heavily on its player base, and with the changes to PvP, I found that player interaction was much less needed. In the early access release, there was like a karma system. You would go out and you would get ganked by bad players. You'd go back to town. You'd lose all of your loot. So you'd go and you'd rally up people. You'd be like, oh, I just got ganked in the goblin zone. Can we group up and can you help me? You'd go and find some sheriffs who can arrest the bad karma players because they've got positive karma. And you'd go out as a group and you'd go fight them and get your stuff back and punish them. And that was kind of, it brought a lot of interaction to the game. You know, the good guys, the bad guys. And I made a lot of friends that way. However, with the push away from that, it does feel a lot less interactive. I tried running around in an aggressive stance on a PvP optional planet, and most people were just playing peacefully. So you couldn't fight them if you wanted to. And they were just like grinding mobs, not really wanting to interact. And a few people that I did go to were like, what are you doing here? I'm farming here. So that was kind of a difference in experience. It does make the game incredible for solo players. And if you want to just come and play the game like it's Diablo 4, then you have a lot of enjoyment here. But it did lose a bit of the social feel for me. I definitely recommend to counter that to join a guild. If you want to get into PvP, if you want to make friends, and if you want to get that social element, join a guild. A lot of the PvP has been pushed to like group and zone content. So I definitely recommend getting into some fights that way. Secondly, there is now also a VIP system in the game. This gives you like a little title. It gives you access to the nearest town's bank that you're built on near your house, which is a nice little perk. But one thing they've added is the ability to time skip your personal crafting each day, which feels pretty painful if you're not a VIP. There are no pay-to-win mechanics here, don't get me wrong, and you can trade in-game gold that you farm for tokens to buy these VIP rewards. This is definitely one of the less aggressive VIP systems, but it does feel like you're behind if you don't have it, so something to bear in mind. Overall, an incredible game with a very passionate developer team that both listen and make the right changes, in my opinion. It does things different in a genre where most people are pretty much doing the same thing, and I'll keep coming back to it. Don't expect the world from Fractured Online, but definitely give this one a try if you like this kind of game and you like what you've seen here. But that's it from me. Thanks to the team at Fractured for sponsoring this video. Thank you all for watching, and take care, and I will catch you in the next one.